I was sitting in the study browsing company data, thinking about the smooth progress of the IPO plan. Suddenly, a commotion came from the living room, mixed faintly with the sound of children crying. Doubt surged in my heart as I quickly closed the laptop and walked out of the study. Walking into the living room, I saw a young woman joyfully sitting on the sofa, being all close and cozy with 3, 4, or 5-year-old triplet boys. She said to them, "Xiao Xuan, Xiao Rui, Xiao Hao, don't cry, starting today, you're all officially the biological sons of your dad and me." At that moment, Xiao Xuan, Xiao Rui, and Xiao Hao were snuggled up to my husband Gu Zane and my mother-in-law Li Iker, sweetly calling them Dad and Grandma. I rubbed my eyes, making sure this wasn't an illusion, then angrily walked toward Gu Zane and questioned him, "What the hell is going on here?" Before Gu Zane could answer, the woman on the sofa spoke up first. "Let me introduce myself. I'm Sarah, Zane's childhood sweetheart, and the true love in his heart. And these 3 kids, they're the fruits of our love." Honestly, there was no need to confirm what Sarah said. The scene in front of me had already exposed the truth. Even though I understood what was going on, I was momentarily speechless, fury rising inside me. Gu Zane, the man hailed as the perfect husband, had actually cheated behind my back, kept a mistress, and even had triplet sons with her. Seeing my complicated expression, Sarah looked even more smug. "At least you have some manners, but I am definitely not an unreasonable person. I won't kick you out of the house. I am here today to demote you to a concubine." If it weren't for everything around me looking like a modern setting, I would have thought I traveled back to a feudal era, hearing some old line like "demote wife to concubine." I took a deep breath, forcing down the fury boiling inside me so I wouldn't faint from the anger. Still, I didn't reply to Sarah because deep down I knew both parties in an affair share the blame. Deep in my heart, Sarah was just a stranger. She didn't owe me any explanation. The one who truly needed to account for this was Gu Zane. I glared at Gu Zane, gritting my teeth and demanding, "Gu Zane, is what she said true? Did you really betray me?" Gu Zane looked a bit flustered. He shielded Xiao Xuan behind him and stammered, "Lianlian, honestly, there's no real difference between being the main wife and a concubine. The only thing that matters is whether there's a certificate. As long as you behave and stop fighting Sarah for affection, I believe she'll make a great head wife, and how I treat you won't change. If you refuse, then the only option left for us is divorce." Right now, I suddenly found this whole situation absurdly ironic. The company's about to go public, and you are really planning to divorce me now. Lee Iker snorted coldly after hearing that. "Precisely because we're going public, we need to straighten out your identity quickly. If this issue gets dragged out until after the IPO, then you'll have to give up some shares. But honestly, Yanji isn't the kind of man who ditches his old flame after making it big. Otherwise, someone like you, married for so long without even managing to pop out a kid, who've been kicked out ages ago. Why don't you just be obedient and divorce Yanji? Even after the divorce, you can still live here. If you really want to be unreasonable, then fine, get divorced. But you know damn well, all the family assets are in Yanji's name. Once you divorce, you'll walk out with nothing. Don't even dream about getting a single cent from my son." At this moment, all I could hear in those words was endless sarcasm. After listening to them, I couldn't help but chuckle softly. The moment I laughed, the 3 people in front of me seemed to breathe a sigh of relief, thinking I'd agreed. Sarah cleared her throat. "Since you've already agreed, then kneel and serve me tea. Once you drink my tea, it means you acknowledge yourself as a concubine. From then on, you'll have a place in the Giyu family." But Sarah paused. "But after you drink the tea, you must go with Yanji to get the divorce certificate. Once the divorce is done, you also have to go to the hospital for sterilization surgery. I may be kind-hearted, but I absolutely won't allow Yanji to have illegitimate children. Her triplets echoed like parrots. Yeah, I don't want any little brothers or sisters. Guzain was obviously worried. I'd say no, and quickly added, the vasectomy is for your own good too. Haven't you always said having kids is terrifying? After saying that, he gave a flattering smile. See? I told you Sarah would make a great matriarch. Liiker also smiled and grabbed Sarah's hand. From the first time I met you, I was deeply drawn to you. You are way better than that woman Chow Violet. Still wants to be a concubine. Someone like her doesn't even qualify to be a maid in our family. Even though Liiker had always been dissatisfied with me, this was the first time I'd heard her speak like that. I was so angry I almost laughed. What if I choose to say no? The three of them looked at each other, clearly not expecting me to respond like that. Guzain froze, his face full of shock. How could you say no? Xiao Xuan, Xiao Rui, and Xiao Hao are all grown up now. I have to give them a legitimate identity. You can't put all the blame on me. You are responsible too. Sarah snorted coldly. If you are not willing to kneel and serve tea, make a promise, then you can get the hell out of the Gu family. That is right. Liiker chimed in. If you won't serve us, then you leave with nothing. Otherwise, I have plenty of ways to make your life a living hell. Looking at this group of people in front of me, a wave of bitter irony surged in my heart. Guzain and I started dating back in college. Right after we graduated, we got married, and our relationship had always been very steady. Around the time we got married, we hit a good opportunity to start a business, so we co-founded a company together. Over the past few years, I've poured all my heart and soul into the company. However, Guzain's management skills were seriously lacking, and some of his decisions almost pushed the company to the brink of bankruptcy multiple times. Seeing Guzain's distressed expression, I couldn't bear it, so I reached out to that wealthy father I swore I'd never contact again. Looking back now, my father and Guzain seemed to be cut from the same cloth. After my father's career took off, he gradually grew tired of my mother, the legitimate wife who couldn't give him a son, and eventually divorced her to be with the mistress who bore him a son. My mother suffered tremendously from this devastating blow and soon passed away from depression. My resentment toward my father grew stronger every day. I changed my name and swore never to have anything to do with him again, but to save the company, I had no choice but to ask him for help. I borrowed a huge sum of money, which finally gave the company a chance to turn things around. Even though my father is now old, he began to regret his past choices. To make it up to me, he poured tons of support into the company, helping our once small business steadily grow, eventually reaching the verge of going public. I used to believe without a doubt that even if every man in the world betrayed me, my lover never would. But to my shock, Guzain had already cheated on me years ago. Thinking of this, I said coldly, Guzain, our marriage ends here. I'm leaving with nothing. Really? A flicker of light passed through Guzain's eyes. I nodded slightly. That's right. After losing me, your dream of going public will burst like a bubble. What awaits you is an almost bankrupt company and endless debt. Even though I made myself clear, Liiker kept pressing. How could you be so kind-hearted? The company is about to go public. Are you really walking away with nothing? You must have another agenda, right? I snorted coldly. Weren't you the one who told me to leave with nothing just now, since I agreed? Can't I say that? If you are unwilling, then I could also take half the assets when we divorce. Hearing that, Liiker nearly exploded. In your dreams, all of this belongs to my son. What right do you have to take half? What right? I smiled slightly. For this company to make it this far, every drop of sweat in it came from me too. In the past, to save face for Guzain, I never said anything like this, but now that it has come to this, I won't hide anymore. Guzain's face was gloomy, but he had nothing to refute. Fine, then leave with nothing. Sarah eagerly pointed to a divorce agreement she had already prepared. Beaming, saying it isn't enough. You have to sign it. I skimmed it quickly, and once I confirmed the contents were fine, I signed it. Guzane hesitated for a moment, but eventually signed too. However, he didn't bring up the divorce right away, and instead said slowly, Let's wait until after the company goes public to register the divorce. Right now is a sensitive time. If people find out, it might affect the IPO. I didn't refuse. No problem. After all, if I can get a company on the verge of collapse to go public, then naturally I can also block yours from going public. I get why you'd be worried. But we need to reach an agreement first. If we're not getting the license now, then I have to keep endorsing you, which means I can't walk away clean. I want half of your company's dry shares. While Guzane was still mulling it over, Sarah and Lee Iker almost shouted in unison, Absolutely not! Lee Iker gripped Guzane's hand tightly. Kid, don't listen to her nonsense. She's just leveraging outside influence. Those investors are only putting money in because of you. It has nothing to do with that woman. That's right. Sarah couldn't sit still anymore and rushed to Guzane's side. Darling, the company has grown to this point entirely because of your talent. She agreed so easily to walk away with nothing. She's clearly playing hard to get. You absolutely can't be fooled by her. The divorce has to happen immediately. If you wait until after the company goes public, this woman will definitely use the chance to stir up drama and end up taking a share of our wealth. Do you really want to hand over the inheritance that belongs to our children to this woman so she can pamper some gigolo and raise someone else's kids? As Sarah spoke, she glanced at Hu Manuel and Hu Leo. Apparently, they were already in sync with the three kids, who, upon seeing me, immediately pushed me away and clung to Guzane's legs, crying their hearts out. Daddy, I don't want to be an illegitimate child. I want to be the legitimate eldest son. Yeah, Dad, if you and Mom get divorced and Chow Violet gives birth to a legitimate son, we're screwed. Dad, you're so awesome. Even without her, you can still become the boss of a publicly listed company. Don't let anyone take my daddy away. I don't want to share you with anyone else. The three kids were talking over each other, emotions running so high they couldn't contain themselves. Guzane felt like his heart was being torn apart and quickly squatted down to comfort them. Okay, we'll get a divorce. Daddy will go get a divorce right now. Before the words even finished, Sarah sneered coldly at me and muttered, You're trying to use a push-pull game on me. You are still too young. You saw that, right? I have kids. This is my biggest bargaining chip. Guzane finally managed to calm the three kids down. In the end, he and I agreed to meet at the Civil Affairs Bureau on Monday. I couldn't help but glance back at this house I'd lived in for years, then turned and left without hesitation. Just 2 days flew by in a flash. I arrived at the Civil Affairs Bureau right on time as promised, and smoothly received the divorce certificate with Guzane. The divorce certificate wasn't even warm in my hand yet, and Guzane and Sarah already registered for a new marriage certificate. Sarah waved the marriage certificate in front of me. So-called smart moves really don't take any effort at all. Did you really think a bunch of noise could get you a divorce? You should feel honored I even bothered with you. But Guzane didn't look as smug as Sarah. His eyes were a little red as he looked at me and said, Violet, I really let you down on this, so I am giving you a promise. As long as you fix your bad temper, I welcome you back home. That offer to be a concubine still stands. Lee Iker teased as she threw me a glance. Don't just blame me and Zane. What's happening now? You share some responsibility too. I couldn't help but roll my eyes, thinking, what responsibility do I have? If I really had to trace it back, it'd be that I was too tolerant, took too much crap, and made you all think life is always so shiny and perfect. Still, I firmly believe Guzane will soon realize just how awkward things will get once I'm no longer around. While I stayed silent, Guzane seemed even more ashamed. He hurriedly pulled out a bank card from his bag. There's 10 grand on this, go rent a place. I didn't reach for it, just gave a slight smile. Keep it for yourselves. There's plenty more expenses coming up. Guzane froze for a second, but before he could react, his phone suddenly rang. He glanced at the caller ID and quickly picked up. I couldn't hear the voice on the other end, but Guzane's face instantly went pale. What? They're pulling the investment. I knew the real drama was about to start, so I didn't leave. I crossed my arms and quietly watched him. Right then, Guzane completely forgot I was even there, and anxiously said into the phone, "Why pull out now? That's impossible. There is less than a month before the IPO. Pan Long is our biggest funding source. If they back out, how are we supposed to go public?" Although Sarah and Lee Iker didn't quite grasp what Guzane was saying, they clearly sensed the gravity of the situation and both looked utterly shocked. Sarah didn't realize it wasn't the time to butt in, and anxiously tugged at his hand. "Hubby, what's going on? Who's pulling out their investment? How bad is it gonna be?" Guzane was overwhelmed, and obviously had no patience for Sarah. He abruptly shoved her aside and shouted angrily, "Get lost! Can't you see I'm busy?" Sarah fell to the ground, and tears instantly welled up in her eyes. "Hubby, you hurt me." A flicker of rage crossed Guzane's face. He was on the verge of losing it. The voice on the other end of the line felt like a raging storm. "Hurry up and figure out what's going on. Just saying someone's pulling out. How the hell am I supposed to respond to that? I pay you to solve problems, not to dump them on me. You'd better figure out immediately why the investor is pulling their money. Stop contacting Chow Violet. She's no longer the company's VP. You have to handle this yourself." After hanging up, he originally planned to rush to the office, but when his eyes landed on me, he froze. His expression turned wild, and he suddenly grabbed my arm. "What the hell happened? Did you do something?" "Not bad. You are pretty sharp." That day, I signed the unconditional divorce agreement and left the villa with nothing but a shattered heart. After leaving, I quickly called my dad and briefly filled him in on what had happened. My dad was furious that I had run into such a scumbag, almost ready to explode, but I stopped his thoughts of revenge and instead suggested canceling the investment on Monday. I know Guzane's personality well. If I pulled the investment before getting the divorce certificate, he would definitely realize I was the one pulling strings behind the scenes. Although he can't really do anything to me, he might choose not to divorce me just to torment me. So I have to get the divorce done first and completely get rid of this scumbag. Say something already. Seeing me stay silent, Guzane's expression grew more and more agitated. I had no doubt that if I nodded, he'd drag me down with him. So I didn't admit it. "President Gu, what nonsense are you talking about? You said yourself that all the investors value your reputation. How could they be swayed so easily by just a few words from me? Would I be so easily manipulated by you? Oh, right. Don't forget to go check on your newlywed wife. After all, you shoved her to the ground, and she's feeling very wronged." Lee Iker, burning with rage, rushed at Sarah, who was lying on the ground, punching and kicking. "It's all your fault, you jinx. Everything was fine, but ever since you two got married, everything's gone downhill, even the financing got pulled. This is definitely your fault." Sarah begged desperately, hugging her head and running around to avoid the blows, drawing a crowd of onlookers. As more and more people gathered, I figured the commotion was big enough. Taking advantage of Guzane's distraction, I quietly turned and left the Civil Affairs Bureau. In the days that followed, Guzane called me almost 10 times a day, constantly messaging me to ask about the company's situation, but I couldn't care less. Soon his tone shifted from begging to angry scolding. To be honest, I've never been someone with big ambitions. Deep down, all I ever wanted was a lazy, salted, fish kind of life. I once gave it my all. Worked myself to the bone, all for Guzane. After the divorce, I had no reason to reject the money and house my dad gave me. After all, if I had the guts to ask my dad for help for Guzane, Why couldn't I do the same for myself and go after a better life? When my dad's assistant brought me to my new home, I gradually realized the path wasn't unfamiliar. I didn't expect the villa my dad bought for me to be in the same neighborhood as Guzane's. The only difference was, my villa was actually twice the size. Not long after entering the community, I ran into an old friend, Sarah. It had only been half a month, but Sarah had clearly lost a lot of weight. She was nothing like the arrogant woman who once demanded I kneel and serve her tea. But the moment she saw me, her face was full of anger. "What are you doing here?" "Came to watch the drama." I didn't respond, just pointed at the injury on her face. Sarah's expression shifted slightly, and she turned her head, saying coldly, "What gives you the right to mock me? Right now, I am Guzane's wife. You clinging on like this is classic homewrecker behavior. It is honestly disgusting." Seeing my not quite smiling expression, Sarah completely lost it. "What are you laughing at if you've got the guts? Just try me. I'll start a live stream right now and let everyone see. Beating you up for being a mistress is nothing. I could even get security to throw you out." Just as Sarah was about to go live and call security, Guzane and Lee Iker from the villa also heard the commotion and came out. Guzane looked a bit smug when he saw me, but still kept up the tough act. "What are you doing here?" Realized I was right and came back wanting to be my concubine. I chuckled lightly. "Guzane, if I were in your position, I'd be panicking like crazy right now. But look at you, still got the energy to mess with me." Guzane clearly didn't expect me to come not to make peace, or beg to be his side chick. His face turned dark instantly. "Ciao Violet, you," he fumed for a good while, but just couldn't find a comeback. Lee Iker sneered. "Ciao Violet, if you came here just to gloat, you are wrong. My son may have lost one investor, but he has already found a new one. And my son's taking a two-pronged approach. Not only is he negotiating with new investors, he's also reconnecting with previous ones, hoping they'll invest more. Besides that, my son's still in touch with Panlong execs, continuing talks about investment. So, my son's company is definitely going public on schedule." Guzane nodded in agreement. "Yeah, Panlong pulling out really caught me off guard, but I am already in contact with them. If you're hoping to see me make a fool of myself, you're gonna be disappointed." I let out a light chuckle. Looks like Guzane has realized that Panlong's withdrawal was the chairman's idea, but he misunderstood my move as me playing dirty to compete for the investment. I gave a slight smile. "Guzane, you can bluff all you want to others, and they might buy it, but I'm not stupid. I know you're screwed. And just so you know, Panlong is never fey working with you again, so quit embarrassing yourself." Guzane froze for a moment, then quickly snapped back. "So it fey was fey you. You are the one who ruined my investment." This time I didn't deny it. Instead, I nodded casually. "Yep, that was me. It wasn't your investment, it was mine. I was the one who brought the funding from Panlong. But let's be clear, I got that investment for Fei Fei husband. Since you're not my husband anymore, I have zero reason to keep helping you." Lee Iker shook her head and muttered to herself, "You've gotta be kidding me, someone like you. Asterisk. Number, asterisk. Pulling something this big. You obviously knew my son's investment hit a snag and came here just to brag." Guzane backed her up. "I'll admit you've done a lot for the company. But when it comes to Panlong's investment, I've already confirmed it. The final call rests solely with Panlong's chairman. You have no way of changing his mind." Just as I was about to speak, Sarah suddenly shouted, I got it! Honey, you mentioned before that Chow Violet secured a lot of investment for you. I've always been curious how she did it, and what you just said hit me like a revelation. She used her body to help you get investment." As soon as she said that, Guzane almost instantly believed it. "Chow Violet, you seriously disgust me." "However," Lee Iker exclaimed excitedly, "that's great. Absolutely great, son. Your company has hope now. Guzane looked confused, and Lee Iker clicked her tongue. Son, the boss of Panlong is a well-known figure. If even he slept with your wife, how could he not give you some perks? Guzane's expression gradually became clear, and I realized what he was thinking. I hurriedly said, I once changed my name. I wasn't originally called Chow Violet, but Lee Arya. That Lee is the same as the one in the chairman of Panlong's name. As soon as I said that, the three of them instantly changed expressions. I was worried they wouldn't believe me and might burst into laughter, so I simply pulled out a childhood family photo. If you have doubts, take a look at this. After looking at the photo, all the doubt on their faces vanished in an instant. Guzane was so excited, it looked like he might take off. This is awesome, babe. I can't believe I'm actually the son-in-law of the richest man. Lee Iker tightly held my hand. Lianlian no Luna. In my heart, you've always been my only daughter. In-law, I've always treated you like my own daughter. Hearing this, I couldn't help but wonder if the sky was about to collapse. Over the years, Guzane and I never had children. Lee Iker brought this up more times than I could count, and during arguments, she'd often use it as a threat. She even once begged me on her knees. Why didn't she say she saw me as a daughter back then? Guzane looked at me gently and said calmly, whether you are Lianlian or Luna, you'll always be the wife I love most. I can remarry you anytime. Even though I didn't actually plan to remarry Guzane, I still pointed at Sarah and asked, remarry? Then what about our family's head wife? Guzane gave Sarah a dismissive glance. She can go wherever the hell she wants. She's just a plague. How could she possibly compare to you? Lee Iker chimed in with a laugh. Sarah seemed to sense whether I really wanted to remarry, and immediately dropped to her knees crying, Honey, you can't do this to me. I gave birth to 3 sons for you. How can you abandon me and the kids? Besides, you can't just dump me because she's the richest man's daughter. You clearly told me you stopped loving her long ago, said she was too overbearing, and that you only felt like a real man when you were with me. Guzane saw that Sarah's words upset me and immediately warned her. Shut up. It is not that I don't want my son, it is that I don't want you anymore. That line stunned both me and Lee Iker. What exactly did it mean? She saw the confusion on my face, the corners of her mouth slightly lifted, and the wrinkles on her face looked like they'd caught a fly. Dear daughter-in-law, we can remarry, but that mistress absolutely cannot stay. More importantly, the child must be kept. I get it. You truly love Zane. If that is the case, then you should love what comes with him and care for those 3 kids. After all, half the blood flowing in those 3 little ones comes from Zane's life. Back in the day, stepmothers were extremely devoted to raising children. Once they grow up, they'll only remember you and definitely forget Sarah, the mistress. Guzane gently nodded and said with a smile, Exactly, dear. They're still young. If you give them enough love, they'll naturally recognize who the better mom is, and being able to go through a painless childbirth, it is honestly an unimaginable miracle. I thought it through carefully and replied, So what you are saying is, you want to kick Sarah out, marry me, and have me raise your 3 illegitimate children, right? Lee Iker let out a soft sigh. Though she wanted to object, she ended up softening her tone. They don't really count as illegitimate kids. One day, they'll surely be your children. I couldn't help but burst out laughing. Guzane mistakenly thought I was happy, so he took the opportunity to say, Honey, we don't have to rush this. The most important thing right now is for you to call my dad and try to get him to invest. After all, even though we argue, this is a big deal. I nodded and said, All right, I'll make the call now. After that, I picked up the phone and dialed my dad's number right in front of the 3 of them, under the expectant gazes of Guzane and Lee Iker, and the look of despair on Sarah's face. The call finally connected. I dropped my smile and said coldly, Dad, Why is Gu Yanji's company able to get investment? You said you'd stand up for me. Is this really the way you are doing it? I clearly stated that I want Gu Zane to go down in flames, absolutely not let him go public, and I want him in debt, unable to live or die in peace. As soon as I finished speaking, I hung up the phone under their stunned stares. It took a while for Gu Zane and Li Iker to react to what I had just said. Their faces showed almost angry expressions. Chow Violet, are you insane? That's our company. Your hard work too. Do you really want it to go under? Don't you feel heartbroken? I shrugged. Nope. Since I have the ability to build one company, I can build a second and a third. Why would I stupidly keep fighting for a cheating scumbag? I was running around working my ass off for the company, while you were out keeping a mistress and having a baby. What the hell do you take me for? What makes you think I'd keep being your stepping stone? Li Iker was so furious she nearly fainted. I treated you like my own daughter. Betheft. I cut her off with disdain. You know exactly what's in your heart, and so do Gu Zane and I. Why bother torturing yourself here? Doesn't it hurt? I rarely spoke so bluntly in front of them before, and now they were completely speechless. Just as their anger surged, my bodyguard stepped forward to stop them. He didn't even need to lay a hand, just casually showing off fists the size of clay pots and biceps, thick as heads, was enough to instantly douse their fury. Before Gu Zane and Li Iker could come up with a way to deal with me, Gu Zane's phone conveniently rang. He answered the call with a grave expression. This time, I was close enough to hear the voice on the other end even without speaker mode. President Gu, you've got to come up with something fast. All the other investors just suddenly pulled out. What's worse is that the bank that loaned me money has also cut ties. Even the landlord is inexplicably demanding the place back. Utilities are shut off. We're completely paralyzed, and all the employees have run off. Before Gu Zane could finish listening, his phone had already slipped from his hand and hit the floor. The pride on his face had vanished without a trace. He no longer dared to mention making me the lady of the house or raising kids together. He knew perfectly well. This was the power that comes with real wealth. And it was all triggered by just one call I made. He didn't hesitate. His legs went limp as he dropped to his knees. Babe, I'm begging you. I was wrong. I was really wrong. I don't want the kid anymore. I just want you. Please forgive me. Help me call my dad. Okay? I really can't go bankrupt. You know that. If I go bankrupt, I'll have nothing left. I let out a light laugh. Nonsense, you're still drowning in debt. Li Iker heard this, and instead of kneeling, she lunged at Sarah like a wild beast, striking ruthlessly. That must have been how those wounds I saw earlier were made. She cursed as she hit. It's all your fault. You seduced my son and got him bankrupt. You have to take full responsibility for that. Daughter-in-law, I'm ending this beef today. Once she's dead, you'll definitely calm down, and we can be a family again. Gu Zane finally snapped out of it. Even though all of this started with him, he still teamed up with Li Iker and shoved all the hatred onto Sarah. Honestly, I don't hold a grudge against Sarah, whether she seduced Gu Zane on purpose or fell for him at first sight. I don't really care. Life's full of temptations. It's not like I didn't have admirers, but I knew I was married and couldn't betray my family. Gu Zane, though, gave up his principles. I cleared my throat. Sarah, are you seriously still confused? Gu Zane has nothing now, drowning in debt. What the hell are you clinging to? These words seemed to finally snap Sarah out of it. Not sure where she got the strength from, but she suddenly shoved Gu Zane and Li Iker away. Get lost, you useless pair. Miss Meng, maybe you won't believe it, but I actually knew Gu Zane before you did. He only chose to marry you because I could help him. She's been using you all along. Gu Zane nearly exploded with rage. Asterisk, asterisk, number. Asterisk, asterisk. Shut up. Say one more word, and you'll never see your son again. Sarah rolled her eyes. Why wouldn't I be able to see my son? Is he yours or something? What right do you have to take him away? Absolutely not happening. Gu Zane shook his head frantically. You're definitely lying to me. I raised my hand to cut him off. I don't think you're lying to me. Actually, my previous health check results were really good. It's your condition that surprised me. You're having triplets. That's just unbelievable. Gu Zane and Lee Iker looked like they'd just been struck by lightning, totally shocked. They never expected that for the sake of someone else's 3 kids and an unreliable woman they'd lose me, the daughter of a wealthy man. When Gu Zane and Lee Iker tried to come over to apologize and get back together, I immediately had the bodyguards block them, quickly left the scene, and returned to that more spacious and luxurious villa. After that, I never saw Gu Zane again. It's not that he didn't try to reach out. It's just that he kept bothering me. To avoid seeing him, I simply took a private jet abroad for vacation. After all, I've worked so hard for so long, it's only natural to relax a bit. However, I always had a complete grasp of Gu Zane's follow-up situation because all the investors pulled out and the bank also stopped lending to him. His plans to go public completely fell through. Not only that, those companies that had cooperated with him also, after learning he had offended the richest man, one after another, chose to terminate their partnerships. In less than half a year, Gu Yanji's company declared bankruptcy, leaving him with 300 million in massive debt. All his assets were seized, and overnight he lost everything, ending up on the streets. Actually, Gu Zane once considered finding a job, but who would dare take him in, because he had offended the richest man unless he really went to the construction site to haul bricks. However, going from wealth back to poverty was undoubtedly a reality he found hard to accept. Even if you told Gu Zane to die, he couldn't endure such a life. Lee Iker was severely hit by this, suffering a sudden stroke and becoming paralyzed. Gu Zane had once roared in anger that he would finish off Sarah, but now, having reached this point, he had no time to care whether the child was his or not. Divorce was completely impossible. He could only force Sarah to think of every possible way to raise money. Sadly, Sarah was not me. The intelligence she lacked, and the father just like mine, were things she could never match. So in the end, she couldn't hold on for long and disappeared with the kid without warning, leaving behind a paralyzed and helpless Lee Iker, and Gu Zane who could barely take care of his basic needs. Crushed by an indescribable hardship, Gu Zane struggled to breathe under the invisible pressure and ended up accidentally starving Lee Iker to death. As a result, Gu Zane was sentenced to prison for involuntary manslaughter. But that wasn't necessarily a bad thing. At least in prison, someone was responsible for feeding him 3 meals a day. Even though, Gu Zane kept trying to contact me from prison, begging me to visit and expressing his remorse, I still never went, because I was living my own wonderful life.